Hello and welcome everyone to the Riverfront Red Show, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am the luckiest man in Texas today because I get to talk baseball with the co-hosts of the best Reds podcast on the internet, Locked On Reds. I'm here with Jeff Carr and Steven Offenbaker. So pumped to have you guys. We'll start with you, Jeff. How you doing, buddy?
Well, Nate, I appreciate the kind words, man, and Steve's with us here too. But I'm doing all right now that my eyeballs are not on the television where the Reds are playing.
Yeah, I'm glad I could help out with that a little bit. We are recording this during the game on Wednesday, and it's pretty ugly so far. But we don't need to talk about all the bad. We have to talk about some, I guess. We're obligated, but we'll start with some good. Steven, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I just got to Ohio. Gonna head down to the ballpark tomorrow and get my country jam on at the Thomas Rhett concert after the Reds game. And I'm excited to be in town, and I get to see another debut. All the debuts have been happening while I'm in town. I really appreciate Nick Craw, David Bell working with me on my schedule to make sure that happens.
Absolutely. So the next move is we just go fund you every time we have a prospect that we want to get called up.
Now I like what you're thinking.
And get Mr. Offenbaker to Cincinnati. I love it. Well, very specifically, I had y'all on here because last week I didn't get to record with Chad and Chris, so I haven't had a chance to talk about Joey Votto. The on-field product has been so gross that sort of reminiscing about him is a much happier way to spend my time just thinking.
Well, these are Joey Votto-esque Reds teams, right? The way the Reds are playing right now, it's a Joey Votto-esque Reds team.
Oh my gosh, that hurts a lot.
It's a tribute.
Also, last week, our Patreon family over at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy had several questions, and Chad and Chris didn't get a chance to dive into them. So I wanted to do that today, and a lot of them were just about our favorite moments, just our favorite Joey moments. So I thought a fun way to kind of discuss these was to get y'all on here and do an old-fashioned Joey Votto draft. So the three of us are going to have to pick between 6 categories: best season, his best stretch, his best on the field moment, best off the field, his single most impressive stat, and the biggest injustice. Which some of these can be taken, a couple different directions, and that's the fun of these things. I can see how you interpret them. So I'm excited to do that, specifically excited to do that with you two. But let's get to some current events real quick. I guess we just kind of go around the horn here. We'll start with you, Jeff. What is the one thing that's on your mind right now when it comes to these 2024 Reds?
I cannot believe, because in years past we have heard Nick Craw and really David Bell at times too say until they're blue in the face that the major league roster crunch and problems in the major league level do not affect the timeline of a prospect. But that's not what's happening on Friday, as Rhett Lowder is going to get that call up. And there's so many thoughts that I have about that call up, but that's the first thing that comes to mind, is that they have always said, they're like, no, the need at the major league level is not going to dictate timelines here. Rhett Lowder gets 1 start at AAA, and yeah, it was a good start, but what do we know after 1 start? Like, I am very curious about this. I'm very excited to see him pitch. He is a big part of this future, and I hope that we're not Jose Barreroing this situation here.
Oh, how dare you. That's a good point, though. I mean, there's a scenario where he has to make an emergency start because we're in the middle of a playoff hunt. And you don't want to fill that gap with the second bullpen day in however many days, which seems like you get 5 every 5 days lately. But he'd been on a tear. He looked incredible his last 5 or so starts in AA, looked incredible in his 1 AAA start. So it stinks that with the expectations we had coming in at this season, the call-up, the fairly early call-up, like he moved up pretty quickly, of Rhett Lowder, our top pitching prospect outside of Chase Burns, of course. It has to sort of be, you have to temper your expectations a bit. Steve, I'm sure you've got some Rhett Lowder thoughts.
It's interesting. It's a little wild to me to think that Jeff and I sat down with Rhett in Dayton's dugout at the beginning of this season in Dayton, and here he is making his major league debut for the Reds. You know, the thing with calling him up, I mean, you know, I get the Reds would say we're not going to accelerate prospect timelines based on what's going on at the major league level, but I mean, but honestly, it's either Rhett Lowder pitches a game on Friday or I do. That's really where they're at this point. There's nobody else, and I think they made the right choice in the person they picked to pitch that game because
Hey, I don't know. I will watch the Rhett Lowder start from the comfort of my couch. I would fly to Cincinnati to see you take the hill.
absolutely. No, you know, it's a thing where you look at it and, you know, there's no way that you could have predicted that here in the month of late August, every single starting pitcher that broke camp with the Cincinnati Reds would be unavailable to pitch for the Cincinnati Reds. It's the worst case scenario. It's the long national nightmare of baseball fans. It's the one thing you could not have happen. And it happened. The strength of this team was supposed to be the pitching, and it is definitely not. So, you know, I like Rhett Lowder coming up in this situation in a now what's clearly a non-playoff team where he can come up and get his feet wet and learn a little bit about big league baseball and be ready to compete for a rotation spot in 2025. I like it. Get him a couple starts here at the end. Let's see what he can do and see what we have as far as his ability to be considered the third or fourth starter on this team next year.
Yeah, so I guess the big theme here is stay tuned because who knows how many starts he's going to have to make. We still have a month of baseball left to play. It sucks that the guys are kind of out of it already. I mean, everything but completely out of it, despite what Luke Maley says. I appreciate the optimism, but yeah, tune in for Rhett Lowder, tune in for Ellie. Hopefully, we get some good Hunter news back, Hunter Green news soon as well. Steven, what is your sort of one big thing that you can't shake when it comes to this daggone team?
The medical staff and its inability to correctly diagnose an injury. I feel like the Reds lost so much ground this year for players being labeled day to day and playing shorthanded and you know having nobody on the bench that's available to come in because you're trying to ride out an injury that turns out was a broken bone from 6 weeks ago. Things like that, stuff that I have not heard ever associated with another Major League Baseball team. That it's my big takeaway is if the medical side of things had been handled this year better, I don't know that it completely changes the outcome, but I think they would have been in more games. They would have been in the race longer because they just kept shooting themselves in the foot, pun intended, I guess, that they just couldn't get it together and get it done.
And you can actually add Stuart Fairchild to that because the reports were he's been playing with a hurt thumb for like a couple of weeks. And he just now decided that, yeah, it's probably time to hang him up. Oh, by the way, he's having surgery to repair a ligament in his thumb. It's like, why were you playing with that injury?
Yeah. I always try to think if we overreact to these things because we only follow this team. Like every other fan base is dealing with the same thing. I've never seen other fan bases dealing with this specific just chain of events. It seems like almost
another.
Everyone. Matt McLean is still not even that close to starting a rehab start. And this was because they said he was okay back in spring training, which probably goes back to the previous season, him trying to rush back.
Why isn't he shut down? What in the world are they doing at this point? Shut him down. Just stop.
He could play 3 or 4 games at the end of September.
It is clearly not worth the risk to let him do any other baseball thing this year. Stop it. Shut it down. Tell him you'll see him in Goodyear. Have a nice winter. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was praying that there's a scenario where that was going to be a very hard decision because the Reds were in the hunt. At this point, not a chance. Don't risk it. What are we even doing here? And then you look at Nick Lodolo. This guy goes on the IL with a blister issue. It won't go away. He goes to the IL. He changes his grip because of it. Now he's hurt the finger that he says is because he changed the grip. Like the guy, he was completely ineffective when he had the blister issue. Why not just rest him then? Get it completely healed. Not to
I was
mention,
just convinced that it was really bad rush hour traffic that day or something. He was just overusing it. Something of
That's
that.
what happens when you drive through Covington at 5:00 in the afternoon.
that's fair. And not to mention the Christian Encarnacion Strand debacle, where
That's probably the biggest one. That's
the worst one.
That's the one that just screams negligence to me. How you have a guy with a broken bone. This is not rural medicine. This is not some guy, a country doctor out in Iowa. This is a professional sports team. You're telling me that they didn't have somebody on payroll that can read an x-ray? Really?
He took his prescription pad from the doctor and then took it to CVS, and it just said, rub some dirt in it.
Well, and to even kind of give like a different angle to it, like imagine they did have their stuff together and it was some sort of narrative thing. It's still not a great look because it feels like they've been trying to spoon feed us little bitty details that are either wrong or don't pertain to what we're talking about here. Because like when David Bell said ligament damage all along for CES, it's like, all along means that we heard about it from the beginning. This is the first we're hearing about it. So all along, weird terminology there. But then on the flip side of things, with Hunter Green's injury, they're like, let's not say anything, and then hopefully no one will notice. And then they say, oh yeah, he bumped his elbow on the cabinet before he threw the game. I'm like, well, if you'd have told me that in the beginning, I'd have been like, yeah, sure, whatever, fine. He'll probably miss like a week or two. Like, come on.
Jeff was convinced, Nate, that they were going to announce Tommy John surgery when he was going for his second opinion in Los Angeles. Jeff was convinced that they were going to announce he had Tommy John surgery.
I'm not going to lie. We were all, I think, every single Reds fan has been scared about that. I still am. I'm not convinced. Yeah. I have no reason to believe it. But that's a classic example.
He got a protuberance. That's what it was.
Just the ridiculous lack of communications skill in this franchise. You can say two things: the truth, or that you're not sure. You're waiting until the results come back, and we'll let you know as soon as we know. It is not hard.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's been this, and it goes back for years. Jonathan India 2 seasons ago, after the Field of Dreams
hamstring.
Game.
Yep.
Yeah, this is not a 2024 exclusive issue, but either way, we're dealing with it. Hopefully, they've identified the problem and they figure it out. As it stands, our beloved Redlegs are 63-69. Thankfully, the Pirates are worse, so we're not in dead last.
That
might
in the
not
NL
hold.
Central. Yeah, it's
Did you see that final score of the Cubs-Pirates game? That Cubs-Pirates final score from Wednesday?
No.
Cubs won 14-10. It's like, wait a minute.
Beer League softball.
Bears Steelers or Cubs Pirates? What are we doing here?
Poor Pirates fans had to finally score double-digit runs in a loss. Good for them. We will not be feeling sorry for them today. The Reds are 9 games out of the last wild card spot. I don't think any of us are going to hold our breaths on that one. But hey, I won't say stranger things have happened because I don't know that they have.
Listen, I have not mailed my playoff ticket deposit to Great American Ballpark. I'm hanging on to that.
At least until they are mathematically eliminated. And then you got to make sure that the Reds front office. Yeah, make sure whoever's doing the math doesn't work for the Reds before you follow that. Before we get into this draft, I'm excited about this. This is one of my better ideas for a draft because what a fun way just to talk about Joey. We do have a couple of viewer mail questions that I wanted to get to just in case the draft runs a little bit long so we don't miss them a second week in a row. The first one we do not need to go too long on because I think we kind of just covered it. From Woo the Reds, why are the Reds?
How are the Reds?
I feel like you can put the emphasis on any word. Why are the Reds? Why are the Reds?
Just why?
Just why?
Why?
Why are we Reds fans? I'll tell you what, next World Series is going to be so sweet. So sweet. The Yankees will never experience. The Dodgers will never know what it feels like for the Reds to win a World Series. All right, next up from Rex Scott. Now that this season is in shambles, guys, could each one of you rank in order what you see as the big club's priorities for next season? Please also let us know which needs can be addressed by the farm system by bringing new players in or perhaps a combination of both. That's a good one. You guys had a good post on your Twitter, your X account today that I think Steven, that was sort of your opinion. We knew that going into the season that we needed at least a bat and at least an arm, an outfield right and an outfield bat and an arm. I think those numbers are higher now. So for me, the priorities would go, you need a top 2 kind of starter. Probably one more. I think Hunter Green's taking that leap. Send up prayers every night to Odin and Thor and the rest that he comes back and it's good. And then last year we thought we needed 1 bat. We might need 2 or 3. I don't have confidence in the infield right now. Outside of the Ellie and Tyler Stevenson positions, I don't know where Steer's going to play. I like his bat just fine. I think he's going to be a good major league starter for his whole career, but where? So I guess that would be my priorities. You can prioritize the arms, get 2 arms. Let's call it 2 because you can make things happen with great pitching. Look at the Brewers and the Indians, the Guardians. Sorry. So that'd be my priorities: 2 arms and then bats.
That excerpt you're talking about was from our show today, Nate, and basically I'm of an opinion now that given how the outfielders have played, the Reds have to go get. I said 3. They need 3 new starting outfielders, and consider TJ Friedl to be your 4th outfielder. And I got some pushback in our comment section, and
I like this. I like this. Let's go.
People saying, no, don't disparage TJ. When he's healthy, he can be the guy, and that's true. But I think that we don't know if he's going to be healthy or not. So if I'm prioritizing what I want to see this Reds front office do in the offseason, I want them to go get outfielders, probably sign a free agent, maybe trade for one. There's nobody really coming up. Is Rhys Hines going to be a thing? We don't know. I don't think he's going to be the impact bat that we want him to be next season. So for me, I want to see them go get 3 outfielders that are big, heavy duty, qualified major league outfielders that I don't know, maybe have played outfield before. That's something new. We didn't try that this year. Maybe we can put guys out there that have played outfield. The next piece of the equation for me is bullpen. I hear you on the starting pitching, but going into spring training, and I guess for the purposes of this exercise, Nate, we're going to assume health, right? We're going to say everybody comes in to Goodyear healthy. So you've got Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Brandon Williamson, Rhett Lowder, Chase Burns, Carson Spires, and I've skipped
Abbott.
Guys. Andrew Abbott.
Graham.
So that's
Graham,
7.
Graham Ashcraft, perhaps.
Right.
That's my
that's
guy.
7
Nick
dudes.
Martinez.
7 dudes competing, 8 dudes competing for 5 spots. I don't think you need to go sign a starting pitcher. What you do need to do is get some legitimate back of the bullpen arms, because Alexis Diaz ain't it anymore. I am done with the experiment. I think he's perfectly fine to be a 7th, 8th inning guy. He's been underwhelming. He has been a disappointment as far as I'm concerned. The Reds need a shutdown guy in the back of this bullpen, and they're going to have to go buy it. There's not anything in the system coming up. There's not really going to be a trade opportunity for something like that in the offseason. As far as I can see, they're going to have to go buy it. So for me, it's outfielders and bullpen arms and hope for health on the infielders and the starting pitching.
Yeah, you brought some real good points there. The TJ Friedl one I have brought up a few times. I'm begging to be wrong about it. I would love for TJ Friedl to be that guy. That's why we were banging the all-star drum so hard last year, because we were kind of worried that it might be his only good chance of making it. This season, he's played in 56 games so far. Yeah, 56 games, got a 95 OPS plus and 0.4 wins above replacement. So even when he's been healthy this year, it's not like he's been setting the world on fire. Sort of to Rex's question, you brought up a good point. The pitching, starting pitching specifically, might be the only place where there could be some talent in AAA.
Yeah.
Because there's not a single bat in Louisville that is worth a damn. Nope. Rhys Hines, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it.
I was there.
And it feels
Maybe
like
he'll start again.
It's kind of a bummer because it feels like we squinted really hard to see that Blake Dunn could be a really big part of this outfield in the future. And we saw him enough this season, I think, to know that we're hoping he can just become like a 5th or 6th outfield type guy. Yeah. Like, I don't think that he is a guy moving forward. And that's not to say that he can't completely prove us wrong, but I'm pretty confident in my assessment there. That
he can be a value add to a team in the way that a Stuart Fairchild is helpful. But
he's
they're
like,
not
he's like
the playoffs back of Blake Dunn.
like I think that his ceiling is what Michael Ciani is to this year's St. Louis Cardinals team. Like the St. Louis Cardinals do not go because of Michael Ciani, but they are better for it with his glove in the outfield and him batting ninth and getting on base occasionally.
That's a good call.
I think that the thing that they need to do, and it's going to take some fleshing out, and quite frankly, he's going to be so in demand, it's probably not going to happen, but the Reds need to sign Juan Soto. And here's the thing. Before arbitration, the Cincinnati Reds are going to be spending about $50 million on their payroll. So even if you give Juan Soto $50 million a year, you're only at $100 million, and the average payroll, I think, this year is somewhere around 170. So you still have a lot of room to play with, even if you go get that one guy. And you get that guy who you can put right behind Ellie. Ellie bats second, Juan Soto bats third, and then maybe Tyler Stevenson bats fourth. The entire lineup then falls in place, because you've got some guys that can spray the ball around and get on base, but you don't have a lot of consistent power like we thought we'd have. And I don't want to bet on CES. I don't want to bet on Matt McClain. I don't even know that I want to bet on TJ Friedl because of their injury concerns. Matt McClain, for me, as much as people want to say, but yes, we will get Matt McClain back next year, I want to agree. But for how long? Are we going to get him for the whole season? Because he has not played. I mean, he wasn't going to play a full season in 2023, but he was never. I didn't think there was a point.
Is this Matt McClain you're talking about right now? Are you? He had a freak accident diving into a base. You can't label him injury prone already. And by the way,
I'm not going to label him healthy.
I thought we agreed that
he's not health prone either.
I thought we agreed not to drink before we record anymore. And you're talking about Juan Soto. I don't know what the hell is happening right now, Nate. Yes. I apologize. I don't know what's going on. But this is ridiculousness. You can't say that Matt McClain is injury prone because he got hurt one time. He hasn't played a full season. They didn't call him up until May, Jeff. What was he supposed to do? Kick the door down at Great American Ballpark and put himself in the lineup? I don't think he's ever going
to play 162.
Oh my God. Well, nobody's going to play 162 anymore. Not with the rest and relaxation David Bell program. That's not what we do anymore.
But I am not counting on that. If the guy has not played, I don't know what we're getting from him. I don't know what we're getting. Think about how long it took Tyler Stevenson to get his feel back for his swing. It's back, but he spent an entire year and a half trying to figure that out. That's what we're talking about with Matt McClain with the labrum surgery. I don't know that we're going to get a fully ready to go dude in Matt McClain. He's going to have to figure out he's going to re-baseball basically when it comes to fielding, when it comes to hitting. I don't want to write him down as the number 3 hitter on this team. Let's go, baby, day one. I think the Reds need a middle of the order guy. They need a tier 1 guy. Juan Soto's that guy.
I know how to get Steven on the Juan Soto train here. If you put Tyler Stevenson in the 2-hole, followed by Juan Soto and Ellie, Stevenson's going to see some pitches, and he's going to get to 40 home runs.
Yeah.
Oh, hit some home.
There you go. Get that 40.
I love it.
I think it's an exaggeration, I'm sure, to some people, but I think that the Reds really need to wow us this offseason. We cannot have another offseason of Jamer Candelarios and some pitcher who just got his arm reattached and call it a day. Like, that's not going to work again.
What's his name from Fangraphs? Dan
Szymborski. Yeah.
Dan Szymborski. He said his piece a few days ago that was really good. Highly recommend everyone go read it. But he's like, why couldn't the Reds spend what they would have to spend to get a Juan Soto? Wouldn't that make more sense than going and spending the same amount of money on 6 league average guys?
That's right,
so
Steve.
This
wasn't even my idea originally. This was Dan Szymborski's idea originally. And I'm on
Dan on here. I'll tell him the same thing.
The likelihood of Dan coming on here is probably higher than the likelihood of the Reds getting Juan Soto. But dare to dream. All right, next question is from Joey Gaditza. Know that he's also a fan of Locked On. Joey says, Votto as the new hitting coach. Who says no? Joey.
I would love it.
I know through back channels that there was some animosity there at the end when Joey left the Reds. He and this coaching staff did not see eye to eye. To have Joey Votto become a member of the coaching staff on this team, it would have to be an entirely new coaching staff. I can't see Joey coming here and working with the crew that's in place.
Yeah, let's qualify Joey's question a little bit, Joey Gaditza's question a little bit. Like, is it David Bell asking to be a hitting coach, or is it Barry Larkin asking for him to be a hitting coach? I think there may be a different answer there, but I don't think Barry Larkin's going to be asking the question. So,
Yeah, I
just
agree
a
completely.
hypothetical there on that.
I also think there's a world where Joey Votto just never works in baseball again.
I hope not.
I hate to see it.
I hope that's
more
not
than
what
anything.
happens.
But if he just decided to go and it's like for the next year, I'm going to become a world-class surfer, and then I'm going to become a world-class log cabin builder, and he just goes and lives his life because he had to be the way he's wired, just to be so locked in, to be one of the greatest to ever do it, and the greatest of his generation at specifically his niche skill set. He didn't have time for hobbies.
Right.
So he could just make up for lost time right now. And like you said, I hope not. I want to have a reason to have that guy in my life for a long time. But yeah,
I think for Joseph Gaditza's question, I think the most likely outcome is we see Joey on some playoff broadcasts as one of the analysts. We see him national broadcasts. I don't ever see him signing in the Bally booth and doing the Reds games. He's too smart. He's too funny. He's too good at it. He's going to get an MLB Network gig. He's going to get a Fox gig. He's going to be on national broadcasts. That's kind of where I see him going from here.
Yeah,
I could see somebody made the point. They're just like, he could be like the Travis Kelce of baseball. He could be like, yeah, he's on broadcast. He has his own podcast. They kind of use him in some entertaining situations, and that's all up to him. Like, kind of like you said, though, Nate, like I could see him doing a whole bunch of different things. I mean, he talks a lot about chess. Maybe he goes and he becomes a chess master or something. I could see that.
Yeah. So stay tuned. It's going to be fun watching. I just hope that he stays in the public eye the way he so rarely did for the vast majority of his career, but has been so great at the last few years.
Rapid fire, because I know you probably want to move on, but rapid fire.
Good.
First commercial that Joey Votto does in retirement. So I think it's Mr. Clean, Joey Mappo.
I like it. I was going to go with.
It's a Tim Horton commercial. What are you even talking about?
What are we doing? What are we doing here? It'd be a safety belt PSA with him on the
school bus. Yes.
And Carlos Guevara, friend of both of our shows, would probably say it's something to do with bean burgers. We'll get Carlos back on here soon to talk about that. All right, the last one isn't really a question so much as a just something nice that one of our Patreon family members said that I do want to read here. Thomas Dennis. Thomas said, I graduated college in 2003. After graduating, I went home for a couple months. I went to several Billings Mustang games. To be honest, this Votto kid seemed kind of small, and I wasn't sure whether he would ever make the big league team. Little did I know that he would eventually be such an amazing ball player. The only other player of my lifetime I enjoyed watching more was Junior. Ellie is making a case, and sometimes we ask ourselves why we are Reds fans. For me, it was Joey that kept me around. Thank you, Mr. Votto.
That's very nice.
Beautiful thing to say, and I think really perfectly reflects the way a lot of us feel. We talked about it earlier. Why are the Reds? Why are we Reds fans? It's because, as something that Chad and Chris touched on last week, they've had a transcendental player on this roster every year for a long time. This year would be the only one where they don't, depending on how you foresee Ellie and Hunter playing out. Obviously, we have the highest of expectations, but with Joey to Barry Larkin to Tony Perez to the rest of the Big Red Machine, there's just been these A-listers, incredible players, often incredible people, not always. Hashtag the Hit King. Joey Votto's one of a kind. We were super lucky to have him. One of my biggest sports regrets, one of my biggest sports fanhood regrets. I can't say I regret it in the real world, but I was overseas for almost 7 years of Joey Votto's prime. So I was a highlights and radio and box score fan for the prime of the greatest Red of my lifetime. So that's tough. But we love you, Joey. And now, to celebrate you, we're going to draft you. I'm sure he's honored and listening at this moment. All right. So like I said at the outset, 6 rounds, best stretch, best season, best on and off field moments, most impressive stat, biggest injustice. Obviously, you can't draft the same event twice. If you find a loophole there, we'll probably allow it because we don't really care. We're trying to have fun here. It's all about the content. I do have our names typed into a random order generator. So let's see who goes first in this snake draft. I'm going to do it again because, as it always does, it has me first, and I feel like it's cheating when I go first. All right. Steven, you are first. Jeff, you are second, and I am going third with the wraparound. So I'm going to, if you hear me typing, I'm going to try to keep track of this thing.
Cool.
All right, and you can draft whichever round you want to. So
all right, where do we want to start with this thing? Do you care which category we go?
I don't care at all. That is part of the strategy.
All right, let's take was one of them best season? Sorry.
Yep.
I don't have the list in front of me. Best season. So I'm going to take the 2017 season, which might surprise you, not taking the MVP season. As a gentleman that's aging a little bit myself, I have an appreciation for what Joey did in that Renaissance season of 2017. And this season can actually fit into a couple of the other categories. It might resurface its head on a loophole, but he played all 162 games that season. He never sat out a game. It was his age 33 season. His wins above replacement in 2017, 8.1 WAR for just that season. Tremendous season for a guy that, if you listen to local radio, was already in his decline phase.
Yeah.
He led the league that season in walks, on base percentage, OPS, intentional walks. It will always be a crime that he did not win MVP that year over Giancarlo Stanton. Robbed. Jeffy, thoughts on that?
I did not realize that I shared my notes with you, so I guess
I have not looked.
We will pick 2010 then for the favorite season because I would have picked 2017. But yeah, 2010 MVP season, leads the National League, the same league that Albert Pujols is in. He leads the National League in slugging. That's a lot of people don't remember that. They always think, oh, well, he walked a lot and had a great on base. It's yeah, there were some years where he was slugging the cover off the ball too, and it wasn't just because he only hit home runs. It's because he hit a ton of doubles, just so many doubles. I think it became boring how many doubles he hit. And 2010 winning the MVP. If I can't pick 2017, I'll pick 2010.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that pick. Probably most people's front runner. That Steve made a very compelling argument. It was the most fun I've ever had as a Reds fan. Was that season, and he was the reason behind it. That was before I left, so I got to watch that when I was either watching or listening to, I think, 155 games that season. So much fun and a great choice. I'm going to stay away from season because you guys both have it covered now, and I can pick whatever I want. So this is where it gets tough. I'm going to go with best. How about most impressive stat? Because I think this one can be kind of fun. I think the most impressive Joey Votto stat was that he only pulled a foul ball for an out twice ever, and that he could remember exactly when they were. The slight qualifier there. Well, I remember the first time I saw that stat long before, I think the first when he did it for the first time, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because you wouldn't even think about that. I don't even know how it was tracked. Analytics have gone too far. But if you want a pure testament to how dialed in, how good he was at not making mistakes, I think that's my favorite example of that.
Yeah, I don't know that he ever actually mishit a ball. I think that if he mishit it in terms of other hitters, he meant to foul it off. He didn't mean to pop it foul, that it could be caught like that. But yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that there is no number to quantify it, but Lord knows there is no smarter hitter that ever existed than Joey Votto. Just all the different things that he can tell you about hitting. I think for me, want to know if I want to do favorite stat. Let's
Whoa,
do
whoa,
this.
whoa, my man! I got the wrap around.
Oh, that's right. I'm jumping.
Listen,
I'm jumping ahead.
I'm nothing if not a gracious host, but when it comes to these drafts, we're gonna put it on the interwebs. I don't want to lose. I'm gonna go with best off-field moment for my for my next draft pick, and for me, it's Jim Day with Jim Day, which was funny enough, and I was mad that I didn't come up with it. And I was just so happy that he did, that he was willing to say it. But it was the way he wrapped it up when Jim Day said, "Sounds good. I just don't know about the tank top." And Joey says straight into the mic, "Is it a nipple thing?"
I almost wonder if he broke character there. Like he was just like, "Wait, you don't like tank tops? What? Why not? Like nipples? Is that what?"
It's one of the most incredible moments. I'll always remember it. Right. So now we go to you, Jim. Sorry, I had to get my nipple takes out.
That's such a good one. I'm gonna buoy that. I'm gonna go on field moment. So not off field moment, but on field moment. And I'm gonna go back because I looked this up, so I made sure I had it right. June 13th of 2012. Derek Lowe on the mound for the Cleveland Indians at the time. That was their correct name. And he never moved. Got a 6-pitch walk, never exited the batter's box. In fact, if you watch the entire bat, there was one, because it's on YouTube, there was a pitch that almost hit him. And even when he moved out of the way to not get hit by the ball, his back foot never moved from its spot. He always kept it there. And he was he'd whirl the bat around, but then he'd come set again. And Derek Lowe was uncomfortable, and the catcher, who I'm blanking on his name, was uncomfortable. In fact, the catcher called time to break up the at bat a little bit, because it was literally Lowe got the pitch and was ready to go. 6-pitch walk, because it's the most Joey Votto thing ever, in that you do the most intimidating thing you could possibly do as a hitter and not move from the batter's box, and you take a walk. That's just, there's no more Joey Votto thing than that.
I love it. Wasn't on my list, but such a great pick. I had a spaced on that one. Fantastic.
All right, Nick, give me the so I'm on my road setup here, so I can't see everything I need to see at the same time. Give me the question about the most, was it disrespected thing or something in that lane?
Yeah, in your opinion, the greatest injustice. And you can interpret that however you want.
I have an interpretation, and I've sat on this interpretation for a long time, but today is the day. The greatest injustice to Joey Votto during his time in Cincinnati as one of the greatest hitters that this franchise has ever seen is the narrative that was pushed forward by the people in the broadcasting booth while he was here. Joey Votto should have been a beloved figure in this town from beginning to end, and he was not. And it was largely due to what was being said on the radio every night. And it just absolutely drove me crazy, because some of that narrative still rears its ugly head. Jeff and I did a show the night that Joey announced his retirement, and it was right there in the comment sections the next days. The regurgitation of, he doesn't got enough RBIs, he didn't hit for enough home runs. And so I busted out the stats, because if you want to talk about what Joey Votto did for this franchise, he's number 2 in this franchise in OPS, so on base percentage plus slugging. That's not from walks, folks. That's from a combination of all the counting statistics. And he's number 2 behind only Frank Robinson in that stat on this team. He's number 2 in home runs, only behind Johnny Bench. He's separated by less than 50 RBIs from Tony Perez, the guy that everybody wants to talk about being Mr. Clutch.
You're taking too many stats.
Sorry.
Listen,
your point is made, though. Your point is made.
You don't have to apologize. You don't have to apologize for getting fired up about this.
Joey
I'm fired up about it too.
Was disrespected for far too long in this town, and it makes me a little bit sad to think about, because Barry Larkin never got treated that way. Joe Morgan never got treated that way. Pete didn't get treated that way. Johnny didn't get treated that way, but Joey did, and it bothers me a little bit.
It was very frustrating. My 2 favorite Reds of all time got treated that way. Adam Dunn was my other favorite Red. Just timing in my life, it was perfect. Also underappreciated. The Joey thing was interesting. In his little Instagram post when he said goodbye, he mentioned or thanked Dusty Baker as one person for teaching him how to be a pro. But if you remember, Dusty also had some comments to the media about Joey needing to take less walks, clogging the bases and that kind of thing. So it's amazing to me that so many people in real time, like on base percentage wasn't a new stat back then. It had been around. Right. You guys touched on it on your episode. And I know that y'all weren't this way, and our fan base didn't seem to be either. Our audience, it's boggles the mind that somebody as great as he is, one of the best to ever do it, first ballot Hall of Famer, I think we all agree, should be anyway, was underappreciated by a giant percentage of his fan base.
Yeah, not just the national, he was absolutely criminally underappreciated by the national baseball fan base, but he was underappreciated at home too, which, I mean, that just sucks.
It's not how we welcome Canadians into Ohio.
That's right. And so I guess I get to do the snake thing now. Is that right? I get to pick
you're up again.
Another one. I'll do something on field, but non-baseball, kind of. But I'll take the on field is when Joey really started letting his personality out when he was on the field, whether he was mic'd up or, engaging. One of the things that stands out to me that he did on the field one time is there was an at bat, and I couldn't find specifically where this was, but I'll describe it for you. There was an at bat where twice during the at bat, there was an appeal down to third base, and the third base umpire rung him up. And the second time that he rung him up was for strike 3. And Joey's walking back to the dugout. And I know your audio feed won't appreciate this, but he was just mocking that umpire, going, all the way back to the dugout. And I thought it was freaking hilarious.
No, that's true. In fact, I want to say that's a GIF. Like if you are on X and you look up Joey Votto, I want to say it's a GIF.
I think you're probably right.
I would like to go back and figure out, because it could have been that very moment, the moment that Joey decided to start letting us in.
Yes.
Because it became my favorite thing about being a baseball fan for the last 4 years. But it was never that way before. Almost never. So I'd like to figure out when that was. Great choice. All right, Jeff, you're up. You still have off-field, stat, injustice, and best streak.
I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go biggest injustice, and I'm going to piggyback off of Steve's pick of 2017 as his favorite season, and my injustice is that he was not the 2017 NL MVP.
Yep.
So I don't care how many home runs Giancarlo Stanton hit, Joey Votto was better than him that year.
Yep.
And he only missed, I think it was by 1 vote. And he was absolutely...
I believe it was the narrowest margin between first and second place in the history of MVP voting.
And I almost want to say it's probably not the first time, but it felt like the first time that it was between 2 players on non-playoff teams, because the Marlins were just as far out of the playoffs as the Reds were. And I thought, going back and looking at that season, everything that he did, he was impossible to get out. He was on base all the time. I loved what he did in 2017. And when I think of Joey, that's the first season that comes to mind. And it just comes to my mind that I'm like, you know what? If UCF can do it, we can do it too. Joey Votto's the 2017 MVP.
Hang up the flag. Hang up the banner. I love it.
The banner.
I think that the only stats Stanton had him in were home runs, RBIs, and slugging percentage. I think Joey was ahead of him in every.
And I think Joey had OPS
other.
Over him because of how high his on base percentage was.
Oh, I think you're right. I definitely think you're right. Maybe it's just And then
his on base was 454 in 2017.
Well, that also it just goes to show you that he was still being underappreciated in 2017, that late in his career. Awesome choice. Okay, so I just have notes here. Off-field nipple. It's going to live in lore. All right, so I'm going to go with streak. This one was kind of a fun one to look up because he had some pretty ridiculous streaks. I have to go find I've lost it in my notes, but it was the home run streak. It had to be 7 home runs, 9 home runs in 7 games, inches from 8 games in a row. because 2 of those games were multi home run games. This was the moment when I officially stopped doubting Joey Votto. I'm like, I when they said they didn't have at bats for him, I said I don't care, because he says he still got it, and I have to believe him, because last time I didn't believe him, he went on one of the most prolific home run tears in Major League Baseball history. So that would be my choice for streak. How fondly do y'all remember that streak?
That was so much fun, and I always remember his quotes, his like post game presser after the game when he narrowly missed making it 8 games in a row. And what he said was hilarious, because he's just like, it's just baseball, because the streak began on me hitting a pop fly that I thought was an out on the warning track, and it just carried over the stands in Wrigley Field. And he said, and then that one, I thought I crushed it, and it was a no-doubter, and it hits the top of the wall. He's just like, that's just baseball, man.
Yeah. And I've been saying streak, but I meant stretch. So, like, it doesn't have to be a streak-specific thing. But there's so many to choose from. That one was tough. I'm going to go with I'm going to save that for later. So I have an on-field to go. Best on-field moment. And for this one, it's tough for me to avoid recency bias. And I'm down to talk about some of these after we're done with the draft, just our honorable mention section. But I'm going to go with May 13th, 2012. He had 3 home runs and a walk-off grand slam. That was after a 3-hour and 36-minute rain delay on Mother's Day. The game was almost 4 hours, and Votto just made it all worth it. 4 for 5 with those 3 bombs in a come-from-behind win over the Nationals. I think, here we go, pulled it up. According to Elias Sports Bureau, became the first player in Major League history with 3 home runs to have one of them be a walk-off grand slam, all in the same game.
Only him. I mean, the Thanos glove, I am inevitable gif did not exist back then, but it's the perfect moment in Reds history for that to have worked.
100%. He was so good. All right, Jeff, back to you. You still have off the field moment, stat, and stretch.
So I'm going to go, and I am pretty sure I'm wrong, but quite frankly, I couldn't go through every single season and confirm this. But I'm going to go with favorite stretch, and I'm going to go with what I think is his personal best hitting streak ever. And we're going back to 2017. July 26th through August 12th, 17-game hitting streak. During that time, in 17 games, he got on base 45 times. He had 24 hits. He had a slash line. This is insane. 462 batting average, 627 on base percentage, 808 slugging percentage during these 17. During these 7, it's like most of the guys on the team this year don't have an 808 OPS. He had an 808 slugging in these 17 games. And then it kind of all wraps this up, just bonkers stat: 5 homers and 3 doubles, so 8 extra base hits, only 7 strikeouts. During this time, he had more extra base hits than strikeouts in the 17-game hitting streak. This was just such a crazy streak that I remembered it, and thinking of these different things and trying to remember different points of his career to go back and double check so that I didn't sound like a fool. I was like, yes, this has to be it for me in his longest hitting streak, because I knew I wasn't going to get the homer streak. I knew somebody was going to pick that before me, so that's where I went with that.
Should have double checked before you talked about Matt McClain being injury prone. If you didn't want to look bad,
he hasn't played yet this year.
That's such a good choice, though. I had it extended, I think, by a couple games. I don't know why, but I had that same stretch in here. I think if you go out a couple more games, that slugging goes up to 887. Though the average and on base went down slightly. He was virtually unstoppable. 19 consecutive game on base streak. Drew multiple walks in 11 of those games you were talking about. Putting up those numbers while also walking as prolifically as almost anyone ever has. It's just incredible.
He did a thing, because I did look that, because when the streak ended, so what was August 13th, he went 0 for, and then August 14th, the very next day, he went 3 for 5. It was like, oh yeah, I forgot to get a hit yesterday. Let me catch up today. It's crazy.
So good. He was so good. All right, Mr. Offenbaker, you still have off the field, stat, and stretch.
All right. For off the field, the Canadian Mountie interview has to be one of the best off the field moments of all time. The fact that Joey was just and you hypothesize when was it that he started to open up his personality a little bit. I think it was then. That was really the first time he did something off the wall, and you could tell that the Major League Baseball, MLB Network did not know it was coming. When Joey popped up on the screen, the reaction was real, and Joey was able to just straight face that entire interview dressed like a Canadian mounted police officer. So I loved it. It was the first glimpse of just how funny Joey Votto was, and it was one of my favorite interview moments that he ever did.
Also, an incredible value to get that this late in the draft, because that was probably the number one seed in that category.
Right. And what are my other ones that are remaining? Sorry.
All right, you got two more. You have his most impressive stat and his most impressive stretch.
Most impressive stretch. I think I'm going to go with a couple. It's a tie for me because multiple seasons in modern baseball where he played 162 games. He did it in 2013. He did it in 2017. To be able at age, 33 to get out there all 162, not get hurt, not have to take a single day off in 2017 was amazing. And then to play and put the numbers up, we keep bringing this season up because the stats from that year are just so good. And he never sat down. He never took an at bat off. And it's just absolutely amazing that he was able to put that kind of a stretch together.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because there is somewhere, I think he said it, I don't know if it's just speculated or what, but he just mentioned how that was his goal that year, was to play every single game and to see what he could, how far
he said at times that was his, he said at times that was his favorite statistic, games played.
Yeah. It was like when he reached baseball nirvana the one time and he said, I can do it better than anyone, which he did, despite getting robbed. And his body took a toll. Like, you can't do this every year. There's a reason for it, but you're getting older and you can do it one more time if you want to. And he did it for all 162. Great choice.
And was this when was the diagnosis? Was it 2016 or 2015 with the shoulder? And they're like, well, you can play with it for a certain amount of time, and then you're going to have to get the surgery that he had back in 2022. So I think this was in the middle of that. Like, this was after a doctor told him, yeah, eventually you're going to have to get your shoulder repaired, but you can play on it. And he's like, oh, yeah, so I'll just play all 162.
And be the best player in the league.
Right. Yeah.
What a legend.
He absolutely was.
All right, Jeff. Two more for you, off field and stats.
So let's do, I can save off field. I'm going to do stat, and kind of bear with me on this journey here because
let's go.
For 3 straight seasons, you put all those 3 straight seasons together from 2015 through 2017, he had a batting average of 320. And that is something that when we look at the rest of the league right now, like we're talking about, Bobby Witt hitting as good as he is and Aaron Judge hitting as good as they are, and they're doing it for 1 year. Joey did it for 3 straight years, and he did it for 3 straight years where he played at least 158 games in all 3 of those seasons. He had a total of 1,660 at-bats during that time. He had even far more plate appearances because he took so many walks during all of that. But, the whole thing, and it's something that you kind of look at when you come to a hitter, and you're like, well, he's got a pretty good batting average, and he's got a pretty good on-base. But is the on-base because he has a good batting average? He always had a crazy difference there. There was at least 120 points different between his on-base and his batting average.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of gets lost a lot in just how good he was, because he would get on base so well, but everybody kind of dwarfs the batting average because of his on-base percentage. Dude still hit 320 for 3 straight years, where it's just like, you're not going to get him out because he didn't strike out. This was a period of time where he barely struck out at all. And it was kind of, there was that whole narrative of is he too worried about not striking out that he has sapped some of his power? But even then, he still had some decent power. I mean, he still hit 36 bombs in 2017. That's pretty good. I think we'd take somebody who's 36 bombs on this team right now. So I think for me, it's that 3-year set, because I was waffling between that and another. I'll mention it in our honorable mention if nobody else takes it, but that's the stat that I'm going to pick.
I think that's a pretty fantastic choice. I didn't have something quite that specific dialed in, so I appreciate you bringing that to the show. That's awesome. All right, well, I've got 2 more in this wraparound here, so I will start out with my favorite or best season, and it's tough. They're both so good. I'm going to go with 2015. So not a lot to root for as Reds fans in 2015, but he had a 314, 459, 541 slash line. If you're 3-4-5 in it, you're doing pretty good. 80 ribbies, 95 runs scored, and it's 7.4 wins above replacement. I don't have exactly where that ranks for his career, but gosh, he was good. 2014, he was injured a bunch. So for him to bounce back like that, I mean, we're Reds fans. We're always worried.
He had OPS plus of 174 that season. He was 74% better than league average that year.
For an entire year.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think that was his second highest OPS plus behind 2012. Just the guy was ridiculous. We rarely even talked about this season, and he finished with a 999 OPS on the season. He also walked 143 times, leading the NL, and he just showed everybody, hey, I got a little hurt last year, but I'm still one of the best in the game. All right, my last pick is Greatest Injustice, and this one for me it's just personal. I'll never forgive him. They could have picked up the option. Yeah. We could have avoided everything that happened in 2024. Even if they didn't have a ton of at-bats, even if it was going to be a bench piece and he didn't want to be a bench piece, they could have said, sorry, we're picking up the option. We're going to celebrate you all year long. We're going to let you know. We're not going to re-sign you after that. Maybe on some veterans minimum if you're doing your thing, but we don't expect it to happen. And you're getting a send-off. Fans are going to get to celebrate you one more time. This coincides with his unceremonious exit in 2023, which I'm going to not go into detail in case it gets mentioned later. But we never got to say goodbye. We didn't get to properly say goodbye to Joey Votto. They could afford him. They had one of the lowest payrolls in the league. Yep. They didn't even speak to him. They would not have a conversation with him about coming back. So even if they hadn't just picked it up, they didn't even say, hey, how about a lower number? I don't even know if they said bye. I don't think they said a thing. I think they just ghosted him. So I'll never forgive the Reds for that. It has left a bitter taste in my mouth since it was actively happening. And sometimes it makes me so mad at my older brother, Chad, that he made me a Reds fan.
Yeah, it's tough because I think back then tried to analyze it and try to be like, okay, the roster and this, that, and the other. And that was something that in the time I'm like, no, they're right to do this. And I was wrong to think that.
We were wrong. That you came around. You could have convinced me, and I still disagree with it at the time, but you could have convinced me that they're doing the right thing. He wants to be an everyday starter, and they are moving on from that. They're going to let these young guys go. Sorry, but he never said out loud that he said he wanted to be one, but he never said that he never demanded it, right, that I want to come back, but if I'm a starter. And they could have just taken it out of his hands and said, sorry, don't care. You're going to be whatever we want because we picked up the stinking option. All right.
Right.
That rounds up my Jeff. You have one left.
Off-field moment, right?
Off the field.
Joey Undercover. When he went into the stands wearing a Barry Larkin jersey and was sitting with folks taking pictures with him. And I remember some of the video was like people would walk by him and be like, yeah, that's him. That's him. Because, there's always the sports radio topic of, would you recognize your favorite player if they weren't wearing their uniform somewhere? And at least he was wearing a Reds uniform, but it was the old pullover shirt that was Barry Larkin's. It wasn't his. So
it literally wasn't his. It was Tyler Stevenson's.
Oh yeah,
Barry,
that's right.
That's right.
That's right. I forgot about that part.
It was so great.
Oh, it was, and it was just so cool to think, because then you were like, well, I gotta go find where he is, and then it was like, no, he was there for like a couple innings, and then he went back in. But just to go out there and do that, like, I think kind of we've talked about this a couple of different times. When did it happen that he finally decided to open up? This was kind of like the height of all of that, where he realized, if I'm a personality, I think people are going to remember me in a different manner than they just remembered me as a really good hitter. Yeah. So maybe I'll show a little bit of my personality. And I always loved the Joey undercover bit.
Fantastic choice. I guess no notes. That was incredible. All right. So, Steven, you are up with your last pick, and it is your favorite Joey Votto statistic.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know if I can narrow it in on just one.
It's tough.
My favorite statistic, he hasn't earned it yet. My favorite statistic is going to be the percentage of the Hall of Fame vote that he gets. That's the next stat I'm looking for. That's going to be my favorite Joey Votto stat, his Hall of Fame numbers, so that I can go to Cooperstown and watch him be inducted.
Because it's going to be a slam. It's going to be a slam, right? Like, there's going to be some people that are just like, there's no way he got that many votes. And we're all going to be like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mic drop moment. Yep.
What do you think the chances are that he's not on the first ballot?
Oh, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. People can talk the narratives that they want to talk, but at the end of the day, now that all of the ballots are made public for the most part, and you can kind of see what's up, he's going to get, I'll say 87% of the vote, because there's always some idiots out there. So we'll call it 87% of the vote, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and I hate to be crass, but the 5 years from now, the people that would have left him off the first ballot might not be here.
They gone.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that's pretty fantastic. I think it can get confusing trying to recap all these on air, but I am going to make up a graphic and I'll post it out, and we'll let the people vote to see who they think had the best representation of Joey Votto. Mine says nipple on it, so I'm feeling pretty good about my chances, at least the way Twitter operates.
Give it to the guy wearing the Votto Still Bang shirt. Let's go.
That's a fair point. Is there any moments or Votto-isms that y'all want to throw out there before we call this quits?
Votto still bangs.
Votto still bangs. That becoming a thing deserves to be mentioned. See if I got some highlighted here. The one I almost picked for his on the field moment was when he came back last year, hurt and home run, hit a bomb in his first game back. I don't remember many times I was left off the couch like that. My wife was concerned for my well-being because of that reaction. What were you saying, Jeff?
I was in the stands for that game. I'm like, I know he's going to do it. I didn't say it before that at bat. It wasn't like, this at bat, but I'm like, I know he's going to do it this game. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, then whenever he did, you just stood up and you're just like, man, can't believe this is coming to an end.
Just as a personal honorable mention, when I took my daughters to their very first Major League Baseball game, the very first Major League home run that they got to see was a Joey Votto shot to center field that landed on the grass out in center field's batter's eye. So that's one of my favorite Joey Votto moments of all time also.
That's fantastic. For the injustices, I think we can talk about just the way in general that they refuse to surround him with talent. One of our Patreon family members, Kyle Kapler, pointed out the 2017 pitching staff. We talked about that year so much. The second best pitcher on that team was Sal Romano. They had Tim Adelman, Scott Feldman, a garbage Homer Bailey. Somehow Bronson was even worse. Amir Garrett started 14 games that year. Just a all-around disaster class. I mentioned him getting the thing that happened at the end of last season when David Bell lifted him for Nick Martini. That's David Bell was dead to me then. The Mad Dog interview was great.
Mm-hmm.
The Zach Cozart donkey, he put on a donkey outfit.
Yep.
The guy wore a donkey outfit and then bought
bought him an actual donkey.
Yeah.
I need clarification. Zach Cozart's been pretty active on Twitter. Maybe we can find out where that donkey is. He may have covered it recently. When he told the fan that I remember when you used to be thin.
Yeah.
So good.
Yep.
And
I
the
loved
last thing,
his fan interactions, like the faking to throw the ball in Philadelphia and faking to throw the ball in Washington, and those different fans that were just like, "Oh, we hate you." It's like, no, you don't. He was having a good time.
his heel turn was so much fun. And the last thing that I will mention here is there's a special moment. It was July 2nd, 2009, and he had 4 hits, including a walk-off against the Diamondbacks. And it was very shortly after the unexpected passing of his father. And it was a very emotional moment, special moment for a special player that had been, he'd taken some time off to deal with those things in his own way. And that was a little more taboo back then. Not a lot of players would have been brave enough to do that. And he did, and he came back with a vengeance. And we know what happened the following season. So, shouts to Joey Votto, man. What a legend. I'm glad that we got to spend a couple episodes on this podcast celebrating him. I listened to your all's podcast right after the news dropped twice. And I highly recommend anybody that hasn't already go back and check that out. If you think Steve was getting fired up today.
Oh, I was on fire.
He had saved the receipts. Guys, thank you both so much for joining me. Can't imagine 2 better people to do this with. Please say whatever you'd like. Tell people where to find you. Wax poetic about Joey, and pass on any words of wisdom you got.
I'm happy that I was in the ballpark for his last at bat as a member of the Cincinnati Reds. His single to right field. There for the ovation. There for the interview after with Jim Day. I'm a guy that lives in Hawaii, and I've been very fortunate to actually get to be here when some cool things happen, and I'm always grateful for that. If you want to keep listening to Jeff and I talk about the Cincinnati Reds, check us out over at Locked On Reds. You can find us on all of the places that you get your podcasts, also on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Nailed it.
Yeah, and I think that, I'll just always remember everything that Joey brought to the field. We always talk about, he's never surrounded with talent, but he never played that way. He never gave up. He never stopped playing. And the only thing that he would ever say, as many times as he was afforded the opportunity to haul off and be like, you know what? Yeah, trade me to a contender. I'm done with this. He always said he wanted to win a championship here in Cincinnati. And my honorable mention stat that I had, like we always talk about this stat when it comes to hitters, the OPS plus, kind of one-stop shop to kind of help you out with 100 being average. For his 17-year career, he had a 144 OPS plus. And we're just hoping we get somebody to do that on a yearly basis now.
First
he did that for his
ballot
entire career.
Hall of Famer.
Yep.
That's the next Jeff t-shirt. Votto's the first ballot.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you again, guys. This was a lot of fun. Shout out to our listeners and viewers. Shout out to our Patreon family. If you guys would like to join, we're having a great time in their Slack. I know you guys have a Discord too, I believe. Your fans are having a great time. So please join us both. We'd love to have you. I think we have a lot of crossover already. And anytime you guys want to come back, very much enjoy having you. The offer is always on the table. And shouts out to Lisa Alberto. Shout out to Wayne Krenchicki, to Eli Cash, to my man Adam Dunn, for Jeff Carr, for Steven Offenbaker, and for Joey Votto. This is Nate Dotson saying so long, Cincinnati.